Hello and welcome. This is Tamiya Robles. I am the host of this podcast, Adoption Exposed. Welcome, welcome. So, I am now going to share with you guys the journey, the beginning process of me trying to find the truth pertaining to my adoption. The reason why I specifically put in the title that I'm searching for the truth and not the birth mother is because you'll hear in the story that that's what it wound up being. It was beyond trying to find the birth mother. It was just trying to find the truth to the adoption. Why was I adopted? Remember, that's the $1,000,000 question. That's the only thing I really cared about. I didn't care about what the incubator looked like or how many kids she had. None of that mattered to me. It was, why did this happen? And naturally, the only way you're going to get that answer in my head was to find the birth mother, go to the source, right? So that's what I did. Now, I found the incubator several years ago. It was such a crazy ride. It was bananas. Like, it was stupid crazy, unnecessarily crazy at times. So I'm going to be honest with you, the order may not be correct. I'm going to try my best to say this in chronological order. I think I said that word right. I'm going to try my best, but it was so crazy, and there was a lot of moments here where they're heart-wrenching, a lot of joyful moments, little small ones, but mostly it was just confusing because of the overall situation that happened, and you'll probably hear that in later parts. Because there were so many moving parts to this situation, I have to do this in multiple parts. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know how many parts this is gonna be. So just enjoy, the story, and hopefully it gets you thinking. Again, if you are considering adoption, this is something you might want to think about and consider this story. If you are an adoptee, you know, this maybe you can relate. I don't know. But maybe it also feels good that you're not the only person that has had a crazy banana ass story. So let me just go into it. To be honest with you, I don't remember what finally triggered me to find my biological or look for my biological birth mom. I don't remember that. I'm trying to recall. I've tried to recall, I can't. So I do remember starting the process though. I think I was married or I was about to be married. So it's a little shady. But either way, I decided to get my DNA done and take it more seriously. I've tried in the past to locate my biological birth mom, and it wasn't like I truly put forth the effort. If you know me personally, you know I am very resourceful. So if I really want to find somebody, I can. I don't care what part of the world you're in. You could be in a hole somewhere. Like, I'm gonna find you, but I never put forth that effort because, as I've mentioned, and I will continue to mention, adoption wasn't really the thing. It wasn't a burning issue for me. But if there was a burning issue, it was just that $1,000,000 question, why? And I don't care that you put me up for adoption. It's just like what was going on that led to my adoption. So let me go to the source. Let me be serious about it. And that's when I realized that it wasn't as simple as just knocking on the door of the Capitol and going to Harrisburg and saying, "Hey, can you open my sealed files?" Um, that it wasn't that. I tried reaching out to organizations. It's a dead end, and it's a struggle for people that are trying to find their birth parents, and the records are sealed. It's really frustrating. And I knew that I was going to get have that experience. I had it briefly before when I half-assed tried to find her. So I just didn't want to go through that again. So being in adoption groups on Facebook, I learned to just try starting getting the DNA, and then I found out about these beautiful, amazing people. I got to give a shout out. to them. I wish I remembered her name, but search angels. So if you're an adoptee and you're trying to find your biological, find you a search angel. These are just people that dedicate their lives to finding biological family members for adoptees. I don't know if it's just adoptees, but that's where I know them from. And they're being and there's a ton of groups. Just have some patience, but the girl I had was relentless. She was amazing, but it started off with me getting my DNA. So I was very open about it. For some reason, the people I'm with and some of my close friends are super uh, is super supportive when it comes to knowing my biological background and finding my people, right? My biological people and my DNA. So my ex-husband at the time was like really supportive. He was like, "Yo, do what you got to do to find out the truth for yourself. If this will make you happy, handle it. I got your back." And he did. Now, the whole time he did. And I don't know if it was out of curiosity or if it was just honest support, but regardless, I needed the support and I got it. So I did my DNA and I went through a company called 23andMe. Only because I was being cheap. They were cheaper. Well, let me do 23andMe. Common sense would have told me, like, well, most people don't use 23andMe, they use Ancestry.com. So 23andMe, I found a biological cousin, and her and I were the same age. We were actually born in the same hospital. We were days apart. I think technically she is a few days older than me, maybe a day or two older than me. Um, I think we're Facebook friends still. I don't really, she's a very private person, but when her and I connected, but I didn't know anything at all. She didn't know anything. Um, she we were guessing, trying to figure out stuff, and because I had non-identifying information, it wasn't really helping her. But she did wind up telling me that her she talked to her mom, and her mom was like, "Well, listen, my side of the family, they're a little ratchet and I raised you not to know that side on purpose. However, when I gave birth to you, there was a particular family member, and I'm saying all these points to you guys for a reason because all of these points are going to come up in the future episodes. Okay, so try to remember them. If not, I'll remind you. But her mother was saying that there was a woman in the hospital that was related to them, but had connections and with the nurses. And she was like, "Listen, it seems like we were in the hospital at the same time, yada yada." Now, what made my search difficult in the past was the fact that I was under the impression I was born in Hahnemann Hospital. And Hahnemann Hospital, I think in '79 was called something different. I could be wrong. If you're from Philly and you're old head, let me know in the comments. But Hahnemann Hospital is not in West Philly. And that was the hospital I was born in. I was born in University of Pennsylvania Hospital, which is in University City, which is in West Philadelphia. So Hahnemann Hospital is in downtown Philadelphia. When I was 18 and homeless, my homeless shelter was downtown Philly, so I could literally walk to Hahnemann, and I did. And I tried to find my birth records. Again, I was very ignorant to the laws. I didn't know how to properly find my biological, but they did say they had no record of me at all or something. It would they and then they didn't say, "Well, we can't tell you," but they actually tried to look and they were like, "We don't know what you're talking about." Hahnemann was kinda shady, but I'm like, "All right, whatever." I kinda gave up. I didn't dig deeper. So, but it did make my search when I was serious, this particular search, a little more difficult because some of the information she was giving me, it was conflicting with what I thought I knew. So, she was like, "Oh, yeah, Hahnemann Hosp I mean, you're born in University of Penn." I'm like, "No, I was born in Hahnemann," but eventually realized through speaking with her mom that I had wrong information. Okay, my information was wrong and things like that. I'm cutting out like some of the specific details because it was just a very confusing time, especially in the beginning, trying to piece everything together. If you ever found your biological or you're personally in the process of trying to find your biological, you understand the struggle. But anywho, we figured out we were born in the same hospital. I actually spoke to her mom one time and she got on the phone and she was really sympathetic and she said, I'm gonna just be honest with you, the family's ratchet. I did not want my child to be like that. I know how we are. I don't know who your biological is or anything like that, but you are connected to my daughter through me. So we're genetically connected. So that's how it started. And she tried to help as best as she could, but you don't know anything, like you can only draw but so much blood out of a stone. So at least that was a positive. I'm headed in the right direction. So 23andMe didn't really have a lot of connections on there and nothing close. Like it would say, I don't know, you're 5 times removed from your 8th cousin on your dad's side type shit. I'm like, "What the fuck?" That's not helping me, and but 23andMe wasn't really a known site, so why it's just a dumb move. I was just too busy being cheap, which didn't make sense because in the future, I just wound up buying DNA tests for people. So then I heard about this company called GED Match. And GED Match, what they did is, regardless of who you took your test from, they were all science. And if you know anything about GED Match, you understand what they do, but they take your actual test and your chromosomes or whatever, and they match you through everybody in the world who has submitted their DNA results to them and match you up with everybody in the world. But you have to know about GED Match in order to do it, or you won't find anybody. So I'm like, let me give that a shot. It's free. So I did it. I think it took about a week to match me up. And again, I was matched up to the same girl and I was matched up to a man. And that didn't go anywhere. I don't remember who that guy was. He wasn't like a biological sibling or parent or anything, but it didn't go anywhere. I couldn't reach him or whatever. Whatever. It didn't go anywhere. So then I was like, all right, this is frustrating. Like, I'm there, and let me try ancestry.com. And I think hubby, if I'm not mistaken, recommended that I did that because it was just more popular, more a well-known website. So I did that, and lo and behold, there was a stronger connection. There was a closer connection, and it was like some aunt, a biological aunt of some sort. I think she was dead. I don't know. It was just like real confusing, right? So I'm gonna say that it was really confusing. But what it did show me was this person was not from Philadelphia, but from the outskirts of Philadelphia, not Chester, PA, but this person was part of another small city called Phoenixville, yeah, Phoenixville, yeah, Phoenixville, which is right outside of Philadelphia. Again, it's another small, poor town, destitute town, but it's just instead of south of Philadelphia, I do believe it's west of Philadelphia, 30 minutes out. And I'm like, all right, I don't know anything about Phoenixville like that. I've driven by it on the exit one time. I just know it's not a cool ass place. So I tried to connect the dots, and I'm gonna leave a lot of bullshit out, but I couldn't figure this out. I wound up joining a Facebook group. Facebook group was mad cool. Facebook group had these search angels in it, and I didn't know what a search angel was, but before I just jumped the gun and blurt out my business like everyone else in the group, hey, I'm trying to find my biological, blah, blah, blah. I was like, let me study this group. Let me check it out. Let me join multiple groups. And everywhere I'm going, I'm seeing like search angels and people praising their search angels. I actually had 2 search angels, and I forgot the first one. I feel really bad, but I know she was really sweet, but the second one did everything. Like, she got down to the nitty-gritty. Eventually, I liked what I saw. I liked the results that people were getting. People were really happy. People loved their search angels, which I can understand. Now, my search angel, I forgot her name. I'm going to find her like and at least give her a proper shout out. But she was this young lady and she was all about her business. She was a young mom. She had a teenage son. She wasn't adopted, but like her family had many secrets, and this is what triggered her to help other people. And there were like a lot of hidden secrets, and then she wound up revealing secrets in her family and all that. So I was like, all right, cool, you're just relentless, like I like your style. What she wound up doing was taking my DNA, my matches, and trying to create a tree. So if you know anything about ancestry.com, you can create like a family tree based off of your DNA. And she was amazing because she worked backwards to present. So she would go deep into your past and try to connect the dots to get to your present, meaning your family members, your biological parents and siblings. So she created a tree. Now, the tree she named was called the Wooten family. And if anybody on Facebook or YouTube is following me and you're from the Wooten family, you know how we're connected. And this story is actually going to be the first part of the initial heartbreak story. It's very heartbreaking. Okay. However, they're a beautiful family. They're not my biological family, but at the time we didn't know. And so what happened was what it looked like was the way the DNA was set up, it looked like I was biologically connected to the Wooten family. The only thing we needed to do to confirm this was for me to do a DNA test with the Wooten family. All right, cool. It sounds simple enough, right? Cool. So when I did my DNA on Ancestry, Ancestry can go way back. As long as people are submitting their DNA, they can go back and then sometimes people don't submit their DNA, but they might submit family pictures and photos or information. So I had some of that pop up in my account, some of which were a picture of a tombstone of one of my biological ancestors. But what was really noticeable and which really freaked me out was I was biologically connected with a whole lot of white people. It was like an unusual amount of white people. And per my DNA, both Ancestry and 23andMe, I have a large percentage of Caucasian blood, which I figured it would be, with slavery and whatnot, you know what I'm saying, but not this close. Like these were like, oh, these are your second cousins. And I'm like, what? How? Like it just the fuck how? Which again was more confusing to my adoption story. And I have a whole bunch of white people like, "Oh my god, we didn't know there were black people in my family. This is amazing. Like we should hang out sometime." I'm like, no, I have a mission here." And I think I asked like two white biological family members, since they were so close genetically, if they may have possibly known, of my existence or an adoption story or whispers of adoptions. And the answer was no, because for one, they didn't really know that black people were related to them. Right. And there was like one person that was like, I heard rumors that, our great grandfather was biracial and he passed, and that's how we all. I'm like, all right, all right, all right, all right. This is not where I'm going. Say thank you, but no thank you. So that went nowhere, but that was interesting. And it was still interesting to see that people were leaving like little nuggets of information that you think isn't worth anything, but it is in the long run. In the end, it all kind of connects. So when I got my search angel, she was piecing all this stuff together. She's showing me pictures of my biological great 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 grandfather who fought some war or whatever. The crazy thing is, it's some old decrepit looking white man who was a soldier. Me and him got the same eyebrows. Got the same eyebrows. That's my granddad. Like, you know what I'm saying? We got the same. You can't really see my eyebrows like that right now because of, all this, but yo, we got the same eyebrows. Great, 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 great. Yeah. Anywho, so I digress. We move forward. So she starts putting this tree together, and then the tree is getting closer and closer and closer to me, where now you're seeing more brown people. Now you're seeing actually Hispanics, kind of threw me off. And then it was just like closer to me. So finally she was like, listen, I found your biological, what seems to be like your biological aunts and uncles. The name is here, but we need you to run a DNA test on them. How are you going to do this? I found this. I've taken you this far, but we need to confirm. So I was like, okay, I have to find who they are and search for them. So I was trying to search for the Wooten. I'll just say the Wooten family because this is such a sensitive part of the story and it's very raw that I am not going to say anybody's names. Luckily, I don't remember most of the people's names, but I do know they're on Facebook and I can connect with them. Like we kind of low key shout each other out sometimes. But yeah, so I do remember a couple names. But anyway, so I said, okay, I tried to find them. Fast forward, I found, who did I find first? I found what would have been my biological aunt, right? So I'm searching. So got her on the phone and we'll just, I don't know what we can call her. So Aunt one, the first aunt, the aunt, right? So the Wooten aunt, we'll call her the Wooten aunt. So I contact the Wooten aunt and then I'm telling her the story. And I'm like, yeah, so I'm me. I was born on this date. Da, da, da. I was adopted. Da, da, da. Boom, boom. I think you're my biological something. I don't know what it is. Are you my biological mother? And she was like, no, sweetie, I'm not your biological mother because blah, 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 yakety yak. I'm like, all right, cool. She said, but it sounds like I could potentially be your biological aunt. Here's why. I come from a large family, um, and we're pretty much close, but most of us have passed away. I had another sister who was older than me, and she used to chill in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, and her name was such and such. All right. So what happened with her was she passed away. She had a lot of illnesses, and which caused a lot of surgeries. She had major problems with her heart, her liver, blah blah blah, and she eventually, unfortunately, passed away. But there was a huge portion of time when she wasn't around us. And there was times when she would not share information. And it sounds like she hid you for a reason. And that more than likely this is your biological mom. And I was like, oh my gosh. So now I'm like, my heart is racing. I was like, wow, this is crazy. So we were going off of that. Like my search angel, she started to continue to build my tree. I think to this day, I never deleted that tree. To this day, I have this tree. And we were all excited, like, oh my gosh, this is it. And so the Wooten aunt was like, before I get all excited, let me talk to my family first to see if they knew of you or about this pregnancy. But let me check first, which is smart. So she did. She called me back, and the few family members, there was Uncle Wooten, which was the oldest sibling, I do believe, or the oldest living sibling, and it was another Wooten. It was like a couple more Wootens, but they were a tight knit, loving family, right? So they all got on the phone with me and they were like, we got to meet you. We got to see you. And I was like, yeah, I need your DNA. Like, I need your DNA though. And they were like, yeah, but you know what? We know it, our hearts. that you're ours. You belong to us. And they kept referring to me as theirs. And they also would say that their sister that passed was my birth mother, but they acknowledged her as my mother. And they all got on the phone and they were telling me stories about her. And they were saying how sick she was, but she was beautiful and she was young and she was in love with this man. Okay, this young man, they were high school sweethearts. This story is so sad. It really, now that I'm saying it out loud, this is the first time I ever said this story out loud and publicly. That's crazy. But it's really heartbreaking and sad. So apparently her story was that she was just a sickly person. The family was tight knit, loving. She was outgoing, but she had a best friend that was also from another family that is huge in Phoenixville. So the Wootons are huge, but so are this other family. So kind of think of, but they don't like each other. So kind of think of it as the Hatfields and the McCoys of the hood in Phoenixville amongst black people. Okay. The black hood ass wretch. No, I'm joking. The black whatever I just said. You know what I mean? So they are hating each other. They're enemies. They're sworn, well known enemies. But, with both families being that large, you're going to have people that are still cool with each other. So they were the Hatfield and the McCoys, but they were friends. And they were known through that town as friends, and people left them alone. She had this boyfriend who was amazing. He loved her to death and he gave her the world. She loved him, he loved her. They grew up, they grew apart. She left him, she broke up with him or something like that. Dude was distraught that she left him. This is what they were telling me, okay? And what she wanted to do is she wanted to kind of branch out. She wanted to get out of this small town and she linked up with this worthless piece of shit dude, right? Now, we're thinking that this is my biological father. Keep in mind, nothing in my life can be that simple. It just can't. I wish it was just like one, two, three. It wasn't. Again, adoption stories always have a story within a story within a story. So they knew about this guy. She fell in love with him and she married this guy, I do believe. I'm almost 100% sure she married him. So the guy was like very disrespectful, the complete opposite of her first love. And this guy was disrespectful, he was abusive to her, but she hid that from the family. The family was always concerned because she was sickly. She was born sickly, she was always sickly. She needed major surgeries. um, it was just concerning, and they can't reach her, and she's in this abusive relationship. What they did know is they didn't like Bull. They didn't like the dude. Sorry, sometimes my Philly slang comes out. They didn't like the dude. They knew of him, but just like most abusive relationships, the abuser likes to separate you from your family so they can continue physically, emotionally, psychologically, whatever, abuse you. And that's what they did with her. So her last years, they weren't as connected as they wanted to be because she was still with him. I think eventually she did divorce him, but she was still separate from her family. And when she finally passed away, the family wasn't there like how they wanted to be there for her. Okay. So I'm saying all this so you guys understand that this was some real shit. This is some real shit I have unveiled, so to speak. Now, they couldn't figure out if I was the biological daughter of her first love, or was I the biological daughter of the abusive husband. So I don't remember how I did it, okay? But I wound up connecting to his son, who was, I think, I'm in my 30s, late 30s, early 40s or something. The son was, I think, either a teenager or a young adult. I don't fucking know. He was a kid to me, he was a baby. So I got in contact with him and I was like, "Yeah, I think you're my I guess my delivery should have been better, but I'm new to this, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying." But I was like, "Hey kid, I think I'm your sister." Right? And then he was like, "What?" Now, his story was he knew the Wooten mother. We'll call her Wooten mother. Okay. He knew her, the woman that was supposedly supposed to be my biological mother, right? So we'll call her Wooten mother. He knew her. He knew her well. He liked her. What he could recall of her, he was like, I was so young, but what I can recall of her, I liked her. And he said, so you would be my father's child? He was like, you know what? I'm not surprised my dad wasn't shit. He was a shitty person. He wasn't there for me as a child. He's going on and on. His dad ain't shit. So he said, but I don't know the answer. You would actually need to talk to him. So I said, all right, cool. Now he gave me his dad's information. Never heard from the kid again. Actually, I think we're Facebook friends, but I don't even fucking know. Anywho, because I found him on Facebook, so we might be. So I found the dude, her abusive ex-husband. So I talked to him and I'm like, hey, my name is Tamiya. I think you're my biological father. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like everybody, whoa, wait, what? What the fuck? Right. So he was like, what are you talking about? And he was a little aggressive. He's a little aggressive. But it's all right. I'm aggressive too. So I'm like, whatever work you give me, I'm gonna give it right back. But I understood the situation. You know what I mean? So I was like, you know what? Calm down, sir. This is a situation. And therefore, I do believe what it's looking like is I am your biological child. Right? Now, mind you, still haven't had a DNA test. Keep that in mind in the story. If you're questioning all this, like, wow, you're going through all this and you still don't know. I know, I didn't know. I did. This is what we were doing. Like, the Wooten family was moved and they were like, this is our baby. And, she's come back to us. And then go find your father. And like, it was on that note, right? So I did keep saying like we need a test, we need a test, we need a test, but it was just so emotionally overwhelming and consuming for all of us. Like this is where it led to. Cool. So what had happened was, dude was like, you know what? Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm sorry, but I am not your biological father. And I'm like, well, how do you know? We have He said, well, I'll tell you. He said, when you were born, I was married to this person and that person. Like it was all that. It wasn't him in a nutshell. And then I think it was something he was saying like, wow, I didn't know she could have children because of all the surgeries. Whatever the case was, I forgot what it was, but it was impossible. The way it was set up, it was impossible. But what he was saying was he implied that her first love was probably my biological father. And he was like, I think it's him. I don't think it's the way you're telling the story. So I was like, all right, cool. So I'm cool with the whole Wooten family at this point. They call me, they check. I had one child at the time. I had my firstborn and they were like, we gotta meet her. The Wooten mother left grandchildren. This is so beautiful. And but it's something in the back of my head was like, we need a DNA test. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not get our hopes up, but it was so overwhelming. And they were like, fuck that DNA. You're us. Like, we just need to see you for sure. If we lay eyes on you, we know. We know for sure, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. But I'm talking to them on a regular basis and I'm meeting more family members over the phone and we're bonding and they're telling me stories about the Wooten mother and everything. But I said what the abusive husband said. And they were like, you know what? We didn't want him to be your dad anyway. You're too good for that. And blah, blah, blah. It does make sense. Dude is your father, the first love. So they were like, come out, let's meet each other, let's lay eyes on you. And then I talked to one family member that was like, I knew you were coming. It's so weird. I had this dream that a beautiful stranger was coming And no, I'm joking. I don't know if she said beautiful, but I am. So she was like, this stranger was coming, and it was your mom, and your mom. She was talking about the Wooten mother, right? Your mom came in a dream and was like, I'm bringing somebody to you guys or whatever. So and they were just so thoroughly convinced, like I'm her, and I was like, okay, maybe they're right, whatever. So they asked if I could drive down. They were very sweet. They were like, we'll pay for your gas, we'll do this, we'll do that. I was like, no, I got you. Like, thank you. So I went from North Jersey and I drove down there with me and the firstborn. I think the ex-husband was working in Connecticut, but I told him like this part, like, don't worry about it. I got this. Cool. So I went and met them. They were beautiful. They are a beautiful family. They really are. They're amazing. And they saw me. They saw my daughter. They were like, "You're ours. You look just like her." And they're showing me pictures, and they're showing me pictures of the other dead siblings, and they're showing pictures of their parents and how the father was. It was just the whole story. I don't want to expose all their shit because of what happened, right? But it was just a beautiful time. They were crying, there were tears, there were hugs, you know what I mean? They gave my daughter $100. Like they were like, we don't need to do a DNA test. You're it, you're hers, right? And I had to drive. I don't know if that was still considered Phoenixville or it was like the outskirts of Phoenixville, but they lived in a nicer area. So even Chester and Phoenixville, even though they're like not the best city. They have nice parts like any city does, even in that small town. So I don't remember where they lived at, but whatever. I know that the Wooten sister, the one that I think we're Facebook friends. She's mad cool. She was like, "Well, your dad needs to know that you're here. He's out here. He's a grand. He's a mason and he's a Moor. He's a grand mason and he's this and he's that. And his kids went through college and they had a wonderful life. And you are a secret. No, we're gonna let him know right now that you are his." I said, "Okay." You know what I'm saying? All right. I guess. All right. I'm cool with that. I mean, I've been searching. Might as well get the full story, see what's going on, where this leads us. So, coincidentally, the other family that I told you about, I forgot their name. So, remember, it's the Hatfields and the McCoys of the hood, right? So, the other family was having a whole big ass picnic. And apparently he was connected to the other. That's right. He was connected to that side of the family. So he was the one that made it. He was the somebody who made it. So he didn't really like fuck with them like that. Like he wasn't really coming to events like that because they were too hood and he was like corporate. Like, but you're still in Phoenixville. Go figure. If you really made it, you're not going to still be in the projects. That's all I'm saying, unless you really love the projects and want to get robbed. But whatever, I digress. So as we were she didn't remember where his house was. And even though this was a Hatfield McCoy situation, she didn't care. She was like, "You're the baby, and we're going to tell your dad that you're out here, and we're going to make his family tell us where he lives." Right? So it's this huge fucking party. And when black people barbecue in the summertime, it's a thing. It was a thing because these people it's a big ass family, right? So they got the old heads, and it was just cool. It was a cool ass summer ass barbecue. But the Wooten sister literally has me by my hand and is dragging me around this park like a little kid. Because again, adoption does stuff to people when you realize the hidden secrets and stuff. Like, so I'm a baby in her head, like I'm a toddler, even though I'm a full grown woman, taller than her. Oh yeah, and the family took me out to eat, and everything was amazing. We went to dinner, breakfast, lunch, whatever it was. It was great. It was beautiful. They loved me. But anywho, so she's grabbed me by my hand. She's dragged me like, yeah, we need to know. And I forgot the dude's name, so the we'll call him dude. I don't know. We're just gonna stick to dude, right? So where's the dude at? Because y'all ain't gonna know, but you realize it, but this is his daughter. They were like, what? He's happily married. His son got married. The daughter, they're all, upper echelon people. What the fuck? They were like, yeah, well, my sister was pregnant. She hit the pregnancy and she couldn't handle the baby. So she put the baby up for, like, they're telling the story that hasn't been confirmed. Remember, no DNA. So so people are like, what? And so they're looking at me, they're like, oh, so you're biologically connected to us then. So you are the Hatfield and McCoys. Like, you're one. You are what merges these two families. So they were like, well, some people didn't know where he was, but they were like, well, since you're our family, you might as well stay here and learn who all these motherfuckers are. This is your biological. They didn't say biological, but they were like, this is your cousin. This is your cousin. There's just so many cousins. There's just so many. Like, the fuck. I didn't remember anybody's name, but what stood out was the older people had this Trinidadian flag on their lap. And I was like, "Oh, you guys are Trinidadian." Mind you, I did my DNA, 3 different reports, okay? I have the fucking 23andMe, I had the GED match, and I had the ancestry.com that is still active to this day. There is not a trace of Trinidadian blood in me. And I will say this because I have found the biological, and they are biologically connected to me. You will find out at probably later in another part of how exactly they are biologically connected to me. But we don't have the Trinidadian blood in us per my DNA. Okay, and it's been confirmed through DNA that this is my biological side. So it's like, why are y'all celebrating? They were like, oh, our ancestors came from Trinidad. No, they didn't. What is actually the case, which actually is in my DNA, is the fact that it's not a huge difference, but it's Jamaican. Like, it's not Trinidadian anyway. So I found that to be funny later on down the line, but I did take note of that because that was like the highlight of their life. Like, we're celebrating Trinidadians and shit, but they're not even celebrating the culture. Like, they're just wearing the flag like a blanket. Anywho, so I'm being dragged around by this chick, and it's cool. I love her. Like, I'm really like loving this lady. It was like that with us. So somebody was like, well, he lives right here. He lives this house right down the street. He's at 123 Main Street, just going up there. And so we did. We did. And God was with that man and his family because we knocked on the door. Well, she knocked on the door, still had me hold my hand like I'm 3. And she's like, where's he at? His daughter's right here. She's been looking for him all her life. No, I wasn't, but whatever. And then she started ringing the neighbors, but it was like extreme. Nobody answered the door, not a neighbor, whatever. Like I said, God was protecting that man. It was not met. I said, well, you know what? He's probably with his family. Fuck that. His wife needs to know you exist and you were made out of love. And it was all this. Cool. God never came. So we went back to the park because we had to go through the park to get to dude's house, and then to get back to her car, we had to go back through the park and go to her car to go away. So we get to the park, and there was some randoms, and they were like, somebody's like, oh yeah, this is your cousin. Oh, this is your cousin. So this one chick was like, oh, you're my cousin. And I'm like, I guess so. And she's like, oh, who's your family? Because that's what you naturally ask. Well, how are you related to me? You know what I mean? This ain't like poetic justice where you just do a Tupac and be like, cousin Pete, and nobody says anything about how you're related. You know what I mean? Like, it's cousin Pete, right? Nah. So this one chick was like, well, I don't see how you're related there, but okay. Who's your mom again? So we said the Wooten mom, right? And they were like, oh, she was best friends with such and such, Fatima. Keep that name in mind. So I'm gonna say, right? They were like, that was her home girl. They were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Now everybody knows everybody in a small town. Keep that in mind. In a small town, everybody knows everybody. So they knew who the Wooten girl was. They knew who Fatima was. So they were like, yo, talk to Fatima and she will tell you everything about your mom. Like, yo, she'll tell you. If anybody knew about the hidden pregnancy, she knew. So the woman that was holding my hand, the sister Wooten, was like, you know what? You're right. Thank you. Even though we couldn't get her dad out here, we got this information. We're going to talk about this as a family when we go home. So fast forward. Oh, yeah, I got Fatima's information. So we talk about it, and the sister Wooten was like, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to tell you right now this Fatima person is not a good person. We all hated her. And we used to tell Sister Woot, my sister, which was the mom Wooten, we used to tell her and beg her, like, stop dealing with her. She's a bad apple. She's not good. She's not good people. And she wouldn't listen. And she would start, when she hung out with her, she would start smoking. She would start drinking. She would go out at night. She would be partying. She's, matter of fact, we think it's because of Fatima that she met her abusive husband. So they really did not care for Fatima, on top of the fact it was a Hatfield McCoy type of, you know what I mean? So they were on opposite sides. They were on opposite sides. And her boyfriend, the love of her life, he was on the other side of the family that the Wootens hated, right? So he was supposedly related, but we didn't know all this yet. But so that means Fatima was related to the love of her life. Okay. So she's giving me an earful. The family's giving me an earful, and they're like, listen, I'm sorry, your dad, we're going to talk to him. We know how to reach him. I said, I'm not worried really about the father. I just want to know why I was adopted. I don't care. I'm not trying to disturb his life. I saw him on Facebook. We looked up his information. This dude is living the best life, which is great. Great. It's just amazing. It's a cookie cutter life, still living in Phoenixville. Go figure. So, I'm going to end it right there because now we get into the real heart wrenching part of this story. And, if you want to listen to it, you got to check out the next episode, but it's really fucked up. So I would say definitely brace yourself. It's really sad. It's a crazy ass story. It does go all over the place, but it ultimately it's super duper sad. But anywho, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think is actually going to go down here? Like, what do you think is going to happen? I think you guys can kind of figure it out. You know what I mean? But if you can't, stay tuned. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care. Bye bye.